There you go, folks. My Licorice is alive with Casbah, Tad Dameron's 1949 reworking of the classic standard Out of Nowhere. And when I say reworking, I mean it's a different melody over the same chords. And Tad Dameron recorded that with the trumpet great Fats Navarro. And Tad Dameron, a little bit about him, he was one of the most lyrical of all the bop composers. He famously wrote the great bop standards first, Hot House, which is derived from the chords of What Is This Thing Called Love, and Lady Bird. If you check out the original, it's really cool. It includes a singer. You also might want to check out a more contemporary version, and that's Scott Hamilton's version of Casbah. Really cool. The Casbah. What does that mean? The Casbah refers to a North African citadel, usually a tightly packed Arab ghetto which sits up against the commercial center of a city. And if you want to see a really spectacular cinematic exploration of the Casbah, check out the 1966 masterpiece, The Battle for Algiers. It's really an awesome movie about the French occupation of that country. And all the insurrection, all the plotting and terrorism originates in the Casbah. And you really feel it in the movie. Anyway, that's what I see when I play Casbah, which feels right for the podcast performance to follow. So once again, folks, welcome to episode 12 of Rebel Without Applause, coming to you right here from the wood of the holly under the sign in the magical land of law. And as always, I'm here in my movie studio apartment in front of my trusty microphone where I break it down jazz-wise, joke-wise, culture-wise, and otherwise. And today, accent on otherwise, I have to admit, sitting here, I'm a little nervous or giddy with expectation for the performance to follow. And follow it will. So the time has come. My next adventure beckons, and upon the wings of words will we venture backwards across the centuries to the world that is Shakespeare's Othello, the Moor of Venice, a world where the clash of two cultures yield love, miscegenation, betrayal, and death. Really fun stuff. So we're going to get into it. But before we do, here's a note. Listen at your leisure in some such quiet time as the full measure of your concentration will allow. And if the language seems arcane, the poetry obscure, and the immediate meaning of what is being said escapes you, don't get frustrated. You can read along with the text and then listen again, and then listen and read again, because with Shakespeare, a little effort on the readers or the listeners or the audience member's part will reward that person mightily. Also, by way of definition, as we dive into this first act, the term ancient, you'll hear it a lot as I get into this. It does not refer to antiquity or age, but instead it refers to a military rank. An ancient was something like a staff sergeant. Think Burt Lancaster and From Here to Eternity. He was the uber-capable staff sergeant, loyal and honest to a fault, or at least seeming so to his superior. And Iago is Othello's ancient, also seemingly loyal and honest to a fault, and to Iago's bitter dismay, he has just been passed over for promotion to the lieutenancy by Othello in favor of a Venetian nobleman, one Michael Cassio, a handsome social dandy inexperienced in the cruel art of war. But Cassio is connected and Iago is not. And this offers up at least a partial pretext for Iago's soul-consuming revenge that drives the action of this narrative. But enough of that. I'll let the words of Will and the performance of Bill take you there. And so, loyal listeners, if you will, close your eyes and let's journey back in time and space, about 400 years or so, to a city within a state within a city. Let your mind's eye descend into a tightly clustered urbanity circumscribed by a web of canals and stone alleyways lined with stately palazios, fronted by menageries of Roman statuary hewed from monumental alabaster. We are in Venice, a city of light and shadow, vice and honor, corruption and wealth, a thriving merchant enclave on the watery southern rim of medieval Europa, A crowded flotilla of galleons, single-sail sloops, and gondolas bob silently in the harbor. It is the dead of night. Venice sleeps. Down one of those stone alleys, under a sliver of moonlight, careen two men. The elder of the two, armed with dagger and rapier, is Iago, rough-hewn, confident he is in a spirited, almost jovial conversation with a Venetian civilian, one Roderigo. Roderigo is a young man of noble bearing, yet disheveled and fiercely agonized in his aspect. Iago follows Roderigo across a small bridge which spans a canal. Roderigo takes the last swig off a bottle of wine and tosses it into the canal. Near tears, he turns on Iago. "Tush, never tell me! I take it much unkindly that thou, Iago, hast had my purse as if the strings were thine, shouldst know of this." "Blood, but you'll not hear me," answers Iago. "If ever I did dream of such a matter, abhor me. Thou toldst me thou didst hold him in thy hate. Despise me if I do not. 3 great ones of the city in personal suit to make me his lieutenant, off cap to him, and by the faith of man, I know my price. I am worth no worse a place. But he, as loving his own pride and purposes, evades them with a bombast circumstance, horribly stuffed with epithets of war, and in conclusion none suits my mediators. For certes, says he, I have already chose my officer. And what was he? Forsooth, a great arithmetician, one Michael Cassio, a Florentine, a fellow almost damned in a fair wife, that never set a squadron in the field, nor the division of a battle knows more than a spinster, unless the bookish Theoric or in the togaed councils can propose as masterly as he. Mere prattle without practice is all his soldiership. But he, sir, had the election. And I, of whom his eyes had seen the proof at Rhodes, at Cyprus, and on other grounds, Christian and heathen must be belayed and conned by debitor and creditor. This countercaster, he, in good time, must his lieutenant be, and I, God bless the mark, the Moorship's ancient. By heaven, I would rather have been his hangman. Why, there's no remedy. 'Tis the curse of service. Preferment goes by letter and affection, and not by old gradation, where each second stood heir to the first. Now, sir, be judge yourself whether I in any just term am a fine to love the more. I would not follow him then. Oh, sir, content you. I follow him to serve my term upon him. We cannot all be masters, nor all masters cannot be truly followed. You shall mark many a duteous and knee-crooking knave that, doting on his own obsequious bondage, wears out his time much like his master's ass for naught but provender, and when he's old, cashiered. Whip me such honest knaves. Others there are, who trimmed in forms and visages of duty keep yet their hearts attending on themselves and throwing but shows of service on their lords, do well thrive by them, and when they have lined their coats do themselves homage. These fellows have some soul, and such a one do I profess myself. For, sir, it is as sure as you are Roderigo or either more, I would not be Iago. In following him, I follow but myself. Heaven is my judge, not I for love and duty, but seeming so for my peculiar end. For when my outward action doth demonstrate the native act and figure of my heart and complement extern, 'tis not long after but I will wear my heart upon my sleeves for daws to peck at. I am not what I am. Says Roderigo, what a full fortune does the thick lip sow if he can carry it. Call up her father, rouse him, make after him, poison his delight, proclaim him in the streets, incense her kinsmen, and though he in a fertile climate dwell, plague him with flies. Though that his joy be joy, yet throw such chances of vexation on it as that may lose some color. They approach a large palazzo. Roderigo points. Here is her father's house. I'll call aloud. Do with like timorous accent and dire yell as when by night in negligence the fire is spied in populous cities. What ho! Brabantio! Signor Brabantio! Ho! Awake, says Iago. What ho! Brabantio! Thieves! Thieves! Look to your house! Your daughter in your bags! Thieves! Thieves! From above, out of a balcony, enters an elder man in a nightshirt. It is Brabantio. What is the reason of this terrible summons? What is the matter there? Signor, says Roderigo, is all your family within? Are your doors locked, says Iago. Why, wherefore you ask this? Sound, sir, you're robbed. For shame, put on your gown. Your heart is burst. You have lost half your soul. Even now, very now, an old black ram is tupping your white ewe. Arise, arise, awake the snorting citizens with the bell, or else the devil will make a grandsire of you. Arise, I say. What, have you lost your wits, says Brabantio. Most reverend signor, says Roderigo, do you know my voice? Not I. What are you? My name is Roderigo. The worse are welcome. I have charged thee not to haunt about my doors. In honest plainness, thou hast heard me say, my daughter is not for thee. And now in madness, being full of supper and distempering draughts upon malicious bravery, dost thou come to start my quiet? Sir. But thou must needs be sure my spirit and my place have in them power to make this bitter to thee. Patience, good sir. What tell'st thou me of robbing? This is Venice. My house is not a grange. Most grave Brabantio, says Roderigo, in simple and pure soul I come to you. Down, says Iago. Sir, you are one of those that will not serve God if the devil bid you. Because we come to do you service and you think we are ruffians, you'll have your daughter covered with a Barbary horse. You'll have your nephews neigh to you. You'll have coursers for cousins and jennets for Germans. What profane wretch art thou? I am one, sir, that comes to tell you your daughter and the Moor are now making the beast with two backs. Thou art a villain. You are a senator. This thou shalt answer. I know thee, Roderigo. Sir, I will answer anything, but I beseech you, if it be your pleasure and most wise consent, as partly I find it is, that your fair daughter at this odd even and dull watch of the night, transported with no worse, no better guard, but with a knave of common hire, a gondolier, to the gross clasps of lascivious Moor. If this be known to you, and your allowance, we then have done you bold and saucy wrongs. But if you know not this, my manners tell me we have your wrong rebuke. Do not believe that from the sense of all civility I thus would play and trifle with your reverence. Your daughter, if you have not given her leave, I say again, hath made a gross revolt, tying her duty, beauty, wit, and fortunes in an extravagant and wheeling stranger of here and everywhere. Straight satisfy yourself. If she be in her chamber or your house, let loose on me the justice of the state for thus deluding you. Strike on the tinder. Ho, says Brabantio. Give me a taper. Call up my people. This accident is not unlike my dream. Belief of it oppresses me already. Light, I say, light. Brabantio withdraws within his house. Iago approaches Roderigo. Farewell, for I must leave you. It seems not meet nor wholesome to my place to be productive. As if I stay, I shall against the Moor, for I do know the state. However, this may gall him with some check, cannot with safety cast him. For he's embarked with such loud reasons to the Cyprus wars, which even now stands in act, that for their souls another have his fathom, they have none to lead their business. In which regard, though I do hate him as I do hell pains, yet for necessity of present life, I must show out a flag and sign of love, which is indeed but sign, that you shall surely find him lead to the Sagittari, the raised search, and there will I be with him. So, farewell! Iago exits, and down from his house comes Brabantio in his nightgown with servants and torches. Oh, says Brabantio, it is too true and evil. Gone she is, and what's to come of my despised time is naught but bitterness. Now, Roderigo, where didst thou see her? Oh, unhappy girl. With the Moor, sayest thou? Who would be a father? How didst thou know 'twas she? Oh, she deceives me past stop! What said she to you? Get more tapers, raise all my kindred. Are they married, think you? Truly, I think they are, says Roderigo. Oh, heaven, how got she out? Oh, treason of the blood! Fathers, from hence trust not your daughters' minds by what you see them act. Is there not charms by which the property of youth and maidhood may be abused? Have you not read, Roderigo, of some such things? Yes, sir, I have indeed. Call up my brother. Oh, would you had had her. Some one way, some another. Do you know where we may apprehend her and the Moor? I think I could discover him, if you please, to get good God and go along with me. Pray you lead on. At every house I'll call. I may command it most. Get weapons, ho! And raise some special officers of night. On, good Roderigo. I will deserve your pains. And they exit down an alley. Another part of Venice at the Sagittari. Enters Othello, Iago, attendants with torches. Iago looks up at Othello. Though in the trade of war I have slain men, yet do I hold it very stuff of the conscience to do no contrived murder. I lack iniquity sometimes to do me service. 9 or 10 times I thought to have yerked him here under the ribs. 'Tis better as it is, says Othello. Nay, but he prated and spoke such scurvy and provoking terms against your honor that with the little godliness I have, I did full hard forbear him. But I pray you, sir, are you fast married? Be assured of this, that the Magnifico is much beloved and hath in his effective voice potential as double as the Duke's. He will divorce you or put upon you what restraint or grievance the law with all his might to enforce it on will give him cable. Let him do his spite. My services, says Othello, which I have done the signori, shall outtongue his complaints. 'Tis yet to know, which when I know that boasting is an honor, I shall promulgate. I fetch my life and being from men of royal siege, and my demerits may speak unbonneted to as proud a fortune as this that I have reached. For know, Iago, but that I love the gentle Desdemona, I would not my unhoused free condition put into circumscription and confine for the sea's worth. But look, what lights come yond. Ah, those are the raisin father and his friends, says Iago. You had best go in. Not I must be found. My parts, my title, and my perfect soul shall manifest me rightly. Is it they? Othello looks down the alley. By Janus, I think no. Ah, says Othello, the servants of the Duke and my lieutenant. It is Cassio. The goodness of the night upon you, friends. What is the news? Othello's lieutenant, Cassio, steps forward. The Duke does greet you, General, and he requires your post-haste appearance, even on the instant. What is the matter, think you? Something from Cyprus, as I may divine. It is a business of some heat. The galleys have sent a dozen sequent messengers this very night at one another's heels, and many of the councils raised and met are at the Duke's already. You have been hotly called for, when being not at your lodging to be found, the Senate hath sent about 3 several quests to search you out. 'Tis well I am found by you, says Othello. I will but spend a word here in the house and go with you. Othello withdraws into the Sagittari. Cassio approaches Iago. Ancient, what makes he here? Faith, he tonight hath boarded a land carack. If it prove lawful prize, he's made forever. I do not understand. He's married. To who? Married to... Ah! Othello re-enters. Come, captain, will you go? Have with you... here comes another troop to seek you. Around a corner enters Brabantio, Roderigo, with officers and torches. Ah, it is Brabantio. General, be advised, he comes to bad intent. Hola, stand there, says Othello. Signor, it is the Moor. Down with him, thief! Iago withdraws his rapier. You, Roderigo, come, sir, I am for you. Keep up your bright swords, orders Othello, for the dew will rust them. Good signor, you shall more command with years than with your weapons. Thou foul thief, where hast thou stole my daughter? Damned as thou art, thou hast enchanted her. For I'll refer me to all things of sense if she in chains of magic were not bound. Whether a maid so tender, fair, and happy, so opposite to marriage that she shunned the wealthy curled darlings of our nation, would ever have to incur a general mock, run from her guardage to the sooty bosom of such a thing as thou, to fear, not to delight. Judge me the world if 'tis not gross in sense that thou hast practiced on her with foul charms, abused her delicate youth with drugs or minerals that weaken motion. I'll have it disputed on. 'Tis probable and palpable to thinking I therefore apprehend and do attach thee for an abuser of the world, a practicer of arts inhibited and out of warrant. Lay hold upon him. If he do resist, subdue him at his peril. Hold your hands, both you of my inclining and the rest. Were it my cue to fight, I should have known it without a prompter. Whither will you that I go to answer this your charge? To prison, till fit time of law and course of direct session call thee to answer. Oh, what if I do obey? How may the Duke be therewith satisfied, whose messengers are here about my side, upon some present business of the state, to bring me to him? Says an officer, 'tis true, most worthy signor. The Duke's in council, and your noble self, I am sure, is sent for. How? The Duke in council? In this time of the night? Bring him away. Mine's not an idle cause. The Duke himself or any of my brothers of the state cannot but feel this wrong as 'twere their own. For if such actions may have passage free, bond slaves and pagans shall our statesmen be. They withdraw. A large map of the Roman boot and the Mare Mediterranean dominates the main wall of this, the Duke's war room. Seated in a semicircle, the Duke and his senators pore over dispatches. The Duke reading a paper. There's no composition in these news that gives them credit, adds the first senator, also reading a dispatch. Indeed, they are disproportioned. My letters say 107 galleys, and mine 140. A second senator, and mine 200. But though they jump not on a just account, as in these cases where the aim reports 'tis oft with difference, yet do they all confirm a Turkish fleet in bearing up to Cyprus. Nay, says the Duke, it is possible enough to judgment. I do not so secure me in the air, but the main article I do approve in fearful sense. What ho! What ho! What ho! A sailor enters the palace. A messenger from the galleys. Now, says the Duke, what's the business? Says the sailor, the Turkish preparation makes for Rhodes, so as I bid report here to the state by Signor Angelo. The Duke turns to his senator. How say you by this change? Oh, this cannot be by no essay of reason. 'Tis a pageant to keep us in false gaze. When we consider the importance of Cyprus to the Turk, and let ourselves again but understand that as it more concerns the Turk than Rhodes, so may he with more facile question bear it. For that it stands not in such warlike brace, but altogether lacks the abilities that Rhodes is dressed in. If we make thought of this, we must not think the Turk is so unskillful to leave that latest which concerns him first, neglecting an attempt of ease and gain to wake and wage a danger profitless. Nay, in all confidence, he's not for Rhodes, says the Duke. Ah, here's more news, enters the messenger. The Ottomites, reverend and gracious, steering with due course towards the Isle of Rhodes, have there enjointed them with an after fleet. Aye, so I thought, says the first senator. How many, as you guess? Of 30 sail, and now they do restem their backward course, bearing with frank appearance their purposes towards Cyprus. Signor Montano, your trusty and most valiant servitor, with his free duty recommends you thus and prays you to believe him. 'Tis certain. Then for Cyprus. Marcus Lucicos, is not he in town? Says the first senator. He's now in Florence. Write from us to him, post haste, dispatch. Ah, here comes Brabantio and the valiant Moor. And out of a portico does enter Brabantio, Othello, Cassio, officers, and slinking in the background one Roderigo. Valiant Othello, we must straight employ you against the general enemy Ottoman, says the Duke. Ah, I did not see you. Welcome, gentle signor. We lack your counsel and your help tonight. So did I yours. Could your grace pardon me? Neither my place nor aught I heard of business hath raised me from my bed, nor doth the general care take hold on me, for my particular grief is of so floodgate and o'erbearing nature that it engluts and swallows other sorrows, and it is still itself. Why, what's the matter? Oh, my daughter, oh, my daughter. Dead, asked the first senator. Aye, to me. She is abused, stolen from me, and corrupted by spells and medicines bought of mountebanks. For nature so preposterously to err, being not deficient, blind, or lame of sense, sons witchcraft could not. Says the Duke, whoe'er he be that in this foul proceeding hath thus beguiled your daughter of herself, and you of her the bloody book of law, you shall yourself read in the bitter letter after your own sense. Yea, though our proper son stood in your action. Humbly I thank your grace, says Brabantio. Here is the man. This Moor, whom now it seems your special mandate for the state affairs hath hither brought. A general exclaim from the hall. We are very sorry for it. To Othello, says the Duke, what in your own part can you say to this? As Brabantio, nothing, but this is so. Othello steps forward. Most potent, grave, and reverend signors, my very noble and approved good masters, that I have taken away this old man's daughter, it is most true. True, I have married her. The very head in front of my offending hath this extent, no more. Rude am I in my speech, and little blessed with the soft phrase of peace. For since these arms of mine had 7 years' pith, till now some 9 moons wasted, they have used their dearest action in the tented field. And little of this great world can I speak, but that pertains to feats of broil and battle. And therefore little shall I grace my cause in speaking for myself. Yet, by your gracious patience, I will a round, unvarnished tale deliver of my whole course of love, what drugs, what charms, what conjuration, and what mighty magic. For such proceeding I am charged withal. I won his daughter. Brabantio steps forward. A maiden never bold, of spirit so still and quiet that her motion blushed at herself, and she, in spite of nature, of years, of country, credit, everything, to fall in love with what she feared to look on? It is a judgment maimed and most imperfect that will confess perfection, so can err against all rules of nature, and must be driven to find out practices of cunning hell, why this should be. I therefore vouch again that with some mixtures powerful o'er the blood, or with some dram conjured to this effect, he wrought upon her, says the Duke. To vouch this is no proof without more wider and more over tests than these thin habits and poor likelihoods of modern seeming do prefer against him. Adds the first senator, but Othello, speak. Did you by indirect and forced courses subdue and poison this young maid's affections? Or came it by request and such fair question as soul to soul affordeth? Says Othello. I do beseech you, send for the lady to the Sagittari, and let her speak of me before her father. If you do find me foul in her report, to trust the office I do hold of you, not only take away, but let your sentence even fall upon my life. Fetch Desdemona hither. Othello turns to Iago. Ancient, conduct them. You best know the place. Iago and his attendants exit. Until she come, as truly as to heaven, I do confess the vices of my blood. So justly to your grave ears, I'll present how I did thrive in this fair lady's love, and she in mine. Say it, Othello. Her father loved me, oft invited me, still questioned me the story of my life from year to year, the battles, sieges, fortunes that I have passed. I ran it through even from my boyish days to the very moment that he bade me tell it, wherein I spoke of most disastrous chances, of moving accidents by flood and field, of hairbreadth escapes of the imminent deadly breach, of being taken by the insolent foe and sold to slavery, of my redemption thence and portance in my traveller's history, wherein of entrees vast and deserts idle, rough quarries, rocks and hills whose heads touch heaven, it was my hint to speak. Such was my process, and of the cannibals that each others eat, the anthropophagi, and men whose heads do grow beneath their shoulders. These things too here would Desdemona seriously incline. But still the house affairs would draw her thence, whichever as she could with haste dispatch, she'd come again and with a greedy ear devour up my discourse, which I, observing, took once a pliant hour, and found good means to draw from her a prayer of earnest heart, that I would all my pilgrimage dilate, whereof by parcels she had something heard, but not intentively. I did consent, and often did beguile her of her tears, when I did speak of some distressful stroke that my youth suffered. My story being done, she gave me for my pains a world of sighs. She swore in faith 'twas strange, 'twas passing strange, 'twas pitiful, 'twas wondrous pitiful. She wished she had not heard it, yet she wished that heaven had made her such a man. She thanked me, and bade me, if I had a friend that loved her, I should but teach him how to tell my story, and that would woo her. Upon this hint I spake. She loved me for the dangers I had passed, and I loved her that she did pity them. This only is the witchcraft I have used. Here comes the lady. Let her witness it. Ah, says the Duke, I think this tale would win my daughter too. Enters Desdemona, followed by Iago and attendants. Good Brabantio, take up this mangled matter at the best. Men do their broken weapons rather use than their bare hands, says Brabantio. I pray you hear her speak. If she confess that she was half the wooer, destruction in my head if my bad blame light on the man. Come hither, gentle mistress. Do you perceive in all this noble company where most you owe obedience? Desdemona steps forward. My noble father, I do perceive here a divided duty. To you I am bound for life and education. My life and education both do learn me how to respect you. You are the lord of duty. I am hitherto your daughter. But here is my husband, and so much duty as my mother showed to you, preferring you before her father, so much I challenge that I may profess due to the Moor, my lord. God be with you. Oh, I have done, says Brabantio. Please it your grace, on to the state affairs. I had rather to adopt a child than get it. Come hither, Moor. I here do give thee that with all my heart, which but thou hast already with all my heart I would keep from thee. Turns to his daughter. For your sake, jewel, I am glad at soul I have no other child, for thy escape would teach me tyranny to hang clogs on them. I have done, my lord, says the Duke. Let me speak like yourself, and lay a sentence which as a grise or step may help these lovers into your favor. When remedies are past, the griefs are ended by seeing the worst, which late on hopes depended. To mourn a mischief that is past and gone is the next way to draw new mischief on. What cannot be preserved when fortune takes, patience or injury a mockery makes. The robbed that smiles steals something from the thief. He robs himself that spends a bootless grief. Answers Brabantio. So let the Turk of Cyprus us beguile. We lose it not so long as we can smile. He bears the sentence well that nothing bears but the free comfort which from hence he hears. But he bears both the sentence and the sorrow that to pay grief must of poor patience borrow. These sentences to sugar or to gall, being strong on both sides, are equivocal. But words are words. I never yet did hear that the bruised heart was pierced through the ear. I humbly beseech you, proceed to the affairs of state. Says the Duke, the Turk with the most mighty preparation makes for Cyprus. Othello, the fortitude of the place, is best known to you, and though we have there a substitute of most allowed sufficiency, yet opinion, a sovereign mistress of effects, throws a more safer voice on you. You must therefore be content to slubber the gloss of your new fortunes with this more stubborn and boisterous expedition. Says Othello, the tyrant custom, most grave senators, hath made the flinty and steel couch of war my thrice-driven bed of down. I do acknowledge a natural and prompt alacrity I find in hardness, and do undertake the present wars against the Ottomites. Most humbly, therefore, bending to your state, I crave fit disposition for my wife, due reference of place and exhibition, with such accommodation and besort as levels with her breeding. Why, says the Duke, at her father's. Brabantio, I will not have it so. Nor I, adds Othello. And says Desdemona, nor would I there reside to put my father in impatient thoughts by being in his eye. Most gracious Duke, to my unfolding lend your prosperous ear, and let me find a charter in your voice to assist my simpleness. What would you, Desdemona, says the Duke, that I love them all to live with him, my downright violence and storm of fortunes may trumpet to the world, my heart subdued even to the very quality of my lord. I saw Othello's visage in his mind, and to his honours and his valiant parts did I my soul and fortunes consecrate, so that, dear lords, if I be left behind, a moth of peace, and he go to the war, the rights for why I love him are bereft me, and I a heavy interim shall support by his dear absence. Let me go with him, says Othello. Let her have your voice. Vouch with me, heaven. I therefore beg it not to please the palate of my appetite, nor to comply with heat, the young effects in me defunct, and proper satisfaction, but to be free and bounteous to her mind. And heaven, defend your good souls, that you think I will your serious and great business scant, for she is with me. No, when light-winged toys of feathered Cupid seal with wanton dullness my speculative and officed instruments, that my disports corrupt and taint my business, let housewives make a skillet of my helm, and all indignities and base adversities make head against my estimation. Be it as you shall privately determine, says the Duke, either for her stay or going. The affair cries haste, and speed must answer it. You must away tonight, says the first senator. With all my heart, says Othello. At 9 a.m, here we'll meet again, Othello. Leave some officer behind, and he shall your commission bring to you, which such things else of quality and respect as doth import to you. So please your grace, my ancient, pointing to Iago, a man he is of honesty and trust. To his conveyance I assign my wife, with what else needful your good grace shall think to be sent after me. Let it be so, says the Duke. Good night to everyone, and noble Signor Brabantio, if virtue no delighted beauty lack, Your son-in-law is far more fair than black. The first senator turns to Othello. Adieu, brave Moor, use Desdemona well, and so does Brabantio. Look to her, Moor, if thou hast eyes to see. She has deceived her father, and may thee. Brabantio withdraws. My life upon her faith, says Othello. The Duke, the senators, Cassio, the officers exit. Othello turns to his ancient. Honest Iago, my Desdemona must I leave to thee. I prithee, let thy wife attend on her, and bring them after in the best advantage. Come, Desdemona, I have but an hour of love, of worldly matters and direction to spend with thee. We must obey the time. Othello extends his hand to his bride. Desdemona takes, and each lovingly in the other's eyes they withdraw. Roderigo approaches from the shadows. Iago, what sayest thou, noble heart? What will I do, think'st thou? Why, go to bed and sleep. I will incontinently drown myself. If thou dost, I shall never love thee after. Why, thou silly gentleman, it is silliness to live when to live is torment, and then we have a prescription to die when death is our physician. Oh, villainous! I have looked upon the world 4 times 7 years, and since I could distinguish betwixt a benefit and an injury, I never found men that knew how to love himself. Ere I would say I would drown myself for the love of a guinea hen, I would change my humanity with a baboon. What should I do? I confess it is my shame to be so fond, but it is not in my virtue to amend it. Virtue? A fig! 'Tis in ourselves that we are thus or thus. Our bodies are our gardens, to the which our wills are gardeners. So that if we will plant nettles, or sow lettuce, set hyssop and weed up thyme, supply it with one gender of herbs, or distract it with many, either to have it sterile with idleness, or manured with industry, why the power and corrigible authority of this lies in our wills. If the balance of our lives had not one scale of reason to poise another of sensuality, the blood and baseness of our natures would conduct us to most preposterous conclusions. But we have reasons to cool our raging motions, our carnal stings, our unbitted lust, wherever I take this that you call love to be a sect or scion. It cannot be. It is merely a lust of the blood and a permission of the will, says Iago. Come, be a man, drown thyself, drown cats and blind puppies. I have professed me thy friend, and I confess me knit to thy deserving with cables of perdurable toughness. I could never better stead thee than now. Put money in thy purse. Follow thou the wars. Defeat thy favor with an usurped beard. I say, put money in thy purse. It cannot be that Desdemona should long continue her love to the Moor. Put money in thy purse, nor he his to her. It was a violent commencement at her, and thou shalt see an answerable sequestration. But put money in thy purse. These Moors are changeable in their wills. Fill thy purse with money. The food that to him now is as luscious as locusts shall be to him shortly as bitter as coloquintida. She must change for youth. When she is sated with his body, she will find the heir of her choice. Therefore, put money in thy purse. If thou wilt needs damn thyself, do it a more delicate way than drowning. Make all the money thou canst. If sanctimony and a frail vow betwixt an erring barbarian and a supersubtle Venetian be not too hard for my wits and all the tribe of hell, thou shalt enjoy her. Therefore make money. A pox of drowning thyself. It is clean out of the way. Seek thou rather to be hanged encompassing thy joy than to be drowned and go without her. Wilt thou be fast to my hopes if I depend on the issue, says Roderigo. Thou art sure of me. Go, make money. I have told thee often, and I retell thee again and again, I hate the Moor. My cause is hearted. Thine hath no less reason. Let us be conjunctive in our revenge against him. If thou canst cuckold him, thou dost thyself a pleasure and me a sport. There are many events in the womb of time which will be delivered. Traverse, go, provide thy money. We will have more of this tomorrow. Adieu. Where shall we meet in the morning? At my lodging. I'll be with thee betimes. Go to, farewell. Do you hear, Roderigo? What say you? No more of drowning, do you hear? I am changed. Go to, farewell. Put money enough in your purse. Turns Roderigo as he leaves. I'll sell all my land. Roderigo departs, Iago is alone. Thus do I ever make my fool my purse. For I mine own gain knowledge should profane if I would time expend with such a snipe but for my sport and profit. I hate the Moor, and it is thought abroad that twixt my sheets is done my office. I know not if it be true, but I for mere suspicion in that kind will do as if for surety. He holds me well. The better shall my purpose work on him. Cassio's a proper man. Let me see now. To get his place and to plume up my will in double knavery. How? Let's see. After some time to abuse Othello's ear that he is too familiar with his wife. He hath a person and a smooth disposed to be suspected, framed to make women false. The Moor is of a free and open nature that thinks men honest that but seem to be so, and will as tenderly be led by the nose as asses are. I have it! It is engendered. Hell and night must bring this monstrous birth to the world's light. Iago departs. And there you have it, folks. Act 1. Othello, the Moor of Venice. I hope you enjoyed listening half as much as I enjoyed performing. And now the scene of this narrative will drift across the wide seascape that is the Mediterranean to a new location, an island on the rim of the Venetian Empire, Cyprus. But let's not give away what happens. That's next week's episode. And I'm kind of returning now to my place here from Venice, making the long arrival and flight back to my movie studio apartment right here in the wood of the Holly. And I am now back in my little podcast. I'm truly a rebel without applause, for not one clap of any hand has reached my ear, just my own voice through these headphones. But stay tuned, or stay logged in, or stay subscribed, and next week we'll get to Act 2 of Othello, the Moor of Venice. And, geez, thanks for hanging with me if you made it this far. I know it's a challenge, and this will always be there to get back to, review, listen, and this experience can become ever so deep in your spirit as it has become for me. So till next week, thanks again for listening. If you like this, please share it. If you know someone in an English class or is studying Othello or struggling with Shakespeare, refer this, share it, and it'll be there for them forever. So until next week, adios, goodbye, adieu.